Yes, hello. Welcome to Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Friday mornings live. It's like my old radio days. Coming to you live. Anyway, welcome. Okay, so here's how we're going to roll this out. On Friday mornings, we'll do Mostly Automotive Marketing live. I'll have a different co-host every Friday, and we'll talk about kind of what's trending in the automotive industry, what's going on, what people are talking about, what the hot topics are, and then we'll put it out as a podcast that day. We'll upload it to the interweb that day. So if you're not watching live on either Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, whatever that is, Daily Motion, Periscope, if people still use Periscope, I don't really know, then you can catch it as a podcast later on. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Presented by Silverback Advertising, by the way. And my co-host this week is the digital marketing manager at Nielsen Automotive Group. His name is Colin Carasquilla. I still can't pronounce it. Carasquilla.
Close. TGIF. And it's me again, everyone. I hope you're excited to see Colin Carasquillo, yours truly, on Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, the live edition, live from the Nielsen Automotive Group newsroom.
Oh, the Nielsen Automotive Group newsroom. I like it. Well, thanks for joining me again. I appreciate it. And we got lots to talk about. We've been planning some topics to talk about this week. It's fun to be live, so thanks to everybody who is watching. If you want to leave a comment or you have something you want to say, you can leave us a comment on Facebook. Colin, I believe, is monitoring some of those. They're supposed to come in the little dashboard here, but I don't really know. They don't seem to do that. Or you can text us or call in, and the number is on the bottom of the screen right there, 203-665-8305. Okay, so first thing we want to talk about today is some new logos that came out in the automotive industry. Of course, like most of my news, I get it all on the internets, and I saw this on LinkedIn. So these are the new logos that came out. Two OEMs coming out with new logos this week, BMW and Nissan. Or was this last week? I think last week.
Last week.
So Nissan came out with theirs on like Monday or Tuesday, and I saw it and was like, "Wow, they're going for the like the minimalist look, right?" And then BMW a couple days after that. So before we give our thoughts on that, let's see what the people are thinking. All right, let me read some comments for some people. A lot of comments on both of them on my LinkedIn page. A lot of people saying, oh, okay, simple, minimalist. This person says, not loving it, too distracting, meaning it could be used for an eye or IQ test, and much like a cartoon. That's someone's opinion on the Nissan logo. Someone else says, Z, right? Like sleeping.
You're sleeping. There you go.
I'm getting, let's see, weak, but clean and futuristic. And then my buddy Dave, who works for a Nissan franchise, gave it the vomit emoji. So I don't think he's a huge fan. For me, I don't know. It looks a little bit like, if you've ever seen a TV commercial from an OEM that has like a concept car, and like imagine you're watching a commercial and it's like a concept car, and a garage door opens up and there's like sharp LED lighting on the grill of the car that like comes on. This is like the kind of logo that you would see on the front of it. Looks like a concept car logo. That being said, though, man, the old logo, the same with BMW, they have that like 3D emblem, like that stroke effect around it, which is kind of like late 90s. I don't know. I kind of think I might like it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, the Nissan logo, that's what we'll focus on first. I believe I did comment on that post when you first put it out there, and I think what Nissan's trying to do on this, one, the flat icon is obviously in. You see BMW did the same thing. So for all the listeners out there, flat icon is basically just that, two-dimensional, has no, shadowing or anything like that to make it look like it has a three-dimensional effect. So flat icon, is it back in? Could be. It looks like that with these OEMs here. With Nissan, to me, it almost looks like they're stepping up into or to try to look like a higher end brand. Now, I think that that's very interesting because, Nissan, it's a household name. It's an import vehicle, but they sell a lot of cars, usually up there with Toyota, Honda, etc. But to me, are they trying to make a play to get a little higher end? Who knows?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, maybe that's the look they're going for. It seems like the logo, like almost like a like maybe higher end, but like a futuristic like Tesla. Like I can see this going on the nose of the Nissan Leaf, the Nissan electric vehicle. I don't know. I like it. Although the old one, a lot of people who I used to use for signage and merchandising call it the hamburger. Like, oh, the hamburger. Is the new one still hamburger, or is it? Like, I don't think it looks like a hamburger anymore.
I think they definitely gained, like you said, it's futuristic. It does look like it belongs on a concept car. Doesn't look like a hamburger. I do see that now on the old logo, though, how you could absolutely imagine that. But for me, I like it. Very reminiscent of a clean, futuristic look. And I think that that's good for Nissan. You want to switch over to BMW? Because I think that's a different story.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do Beamer. Want me to read some of the Beamer comments first?
Go for it.
Read some of the Beamer comments. Let's see. Andy says, is that actually for real? Oh my, no thanks. Sarah says, awful design. Stick with the original. Linda, who works for an agency down in Florida, I love Linda. She says, everyone has time on their hands with COVID, so why not mess with your logo? Not feeling this one, though. Now the Nissan logo looks like a fabulous redesign. Colin, you said, oh, no, this one is bad with 20 Ds.
Wow.
And my favorite comment comes from Jessica. She said it looks like a stove knob, which I love. I don't, yeah. I mean, the BMW is iconic for their logo and the kidney grills, which I was never a huge fan of the kidney grills, but their logo is iconic. And the new one looks a little, I don't know. That's for people who are watching and can see it. The outer ring, or the ring that's inside the gray, between the gray and the blue, is transparent. So whatever color the logo's on will show up there. So if it's on black, that circle is black. And I don't know. I think it's too. I think it's too basic.
I would agree. I think, when you think BMW, you really do. You think this nice brand of vehicle, high-end luxury car, and that old logo, the ye old logo, I think is definitely more reminiscent or speaks to that, right? Being a higher-end vehicle as opposed to the new logo, which honestly, I mean, I'm sorry, BMW, I love you guys, but it almost looks like I was working in Photoshop or PowerPoint for that matter, and decided to just come up with something that was very basic. Well, listen, people said the same thing when Instagram had launched their new logo with the color, swirl or fade or whatever you want to call that. I think people literally said that. They ragged on it saying, hey, remember when we were in, I'm a millennial, remember when we were in computer class and you were able to go in and work in Paint, and they had that very basic, almost the same exact color transition, and people ragged on Instagram for that. But look, I mean, obviously it stuck, and so we'll see what happens. You did allude to the fact, though, that it is a transparent background, and so that's the same thing for both of these redesigns. Now, there obviously is a method to the madness, so Matt and I looked at, the logos and why the companies had essentially done that, and both companies did that because they're preparing for the digital age. So what that means to me is, okay, they see that they have to take the logo and they have to utilize that logo consistently in their marketing and branding across different platforms, different mediums, different media. And with that, this will allow them to consistently drop that logo in any one of those medias and essentially have that same effect. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think that that's beneficial, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look at Nissan, they have, and I just use Nissan as an example because I used to have marketing for a bunch of Nissan stores, so I'm more familiar with the brand. And from a digital standpoint, Nissan's always swapping out creatives in terms of background colors and corner logos, and depending on which model they're advertising or where they're putting it, whether they're putting it on a TV commercial or they're putting it on socials or sponsorship graphics on Nissan Stadium in Tennessee. And red, that Nissan red, is a big color for them. Their dealerships have those on their signage. And this looks pretty good on that red. On their socials, I was looking at it this morning. They have it with the red background. And I think it looks pretty good. I think, if they're preparing it, if they're, air quotes, digital age, I think it's all right. I do agree, though. BMW, if I go downstairs and stare at my LG stove, it looks like the stove thing.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe they're making people comfortable with it's a household brand. All right, I don't know. The stove, it's in your house. You're comfortable with the stove. Maybe they're trying to make BMW this household brand. That one, I'm not so sold on. I do like the Nissan one, like you said. It is important to note that on BMW, they're not going to be changing. This was just from an article in Automotive News. Shout out Automotive News. Both Matt and I, tune in to your podcast and read all your information. With that, a representative from BMW stated that they're not going to change the logo on the vehicles. So don't be afraid that your BMW in the future, should you consider purchasing one, is going to have that logo on it. They're going to keep the standard BMW logo. That, like I said, is just for their marketing purposes and consistency across the marketing message. But even that's very interesting, Matt, because now you're going to see one logo on a car and you're going to see this other logo on their advertising. I don't know. That might, backfire, essentially.
I did notice just from some searches this morning that Nissan went all in very quickly on the logo. All their socials are changed. If you look at, there's a ton more articles and press about it out there. And the BMW one seems to be like, in some spots you see the old logo, in some spots the new logo. It seems to be getting less press. I don't know. It just seems a little bit less like, here it is, and we're committed to it, than Nissan, which makes it, like that day last week, you couldn't find the current logo anywhere. But I wonder what Nissan's going to do with the grills of their cars. Like, we have a couple Nissans because I used to work for a Nissan group, and the Nissan logo on the nose of the cars looks really good. Mm-hmm. I like the way it sticks out on the grills of the Murano and Rogue, and it looks really nice. And this logo kind of has that flat, the logo on the nose now has got the 3D. It looks pretty cool.
Right.
So I wonder if Nissan's going to change the grills. I couldn't find any details on that. And if they do, is it going to be flat, or is it going to be, a 3D like emblem sticking off the front of the car?
So I have something here. This is from Car and Driver. So this is the Nissan logo that we're discussing. Nissan says it began the redesign process in 2017 with the aim to make the new logo, quote unquote, thin, light, and flexible. Okay, it looks like that. Another requirement, here you go, was to make it look good when illuminated on future EV models, so electric vehicle models, which will have 20 LEDs lighting up the Nissan logo on the front of the car. So with that, what does that make you think? It makes me think that they're going to put it actually in the grille of the vehicle instead of maybe on top of the car. It's in the grille now, you mentioned, right? Is that where?
Yeah, it's in the middle of the grille.
So it's in the middle of the grill. So it sounds like they're going to still do it in the middle of the grill, but now that they're going to add these LED lights that will make it glow. Another brand, that high-end brand that does that, which I think a lot of people love the fact that they do it. Mercedes has their glowing emblem. And sometimes I will tell you, you see those out on the road at night. It's probably one of the coolest things to see, that glowing emblem. So This is interesting. I think that this could definitely make a statement for Nissan, and we'll only be able to see where it goes from here. So,
all right, another big happening. Was this last week or this week? Now I can't remember. I'm terrible with dates, but obviously,
coronavirus dates don't matter. It's all
I'm like, what's today? Is today Friday? I think today's Friday.
Today is Friday.
The new Bronco launch has been all the talk of the industry. I'm account director at an agency, and it was all over our Slack channel and talking about what's going on the day after it happened. I was reading an article about a couple days before it happened. I was reading an article about the Disney takeover, which I had it written down here. So here we go. About some of the marketing they did for the Bronco launch. And one of the things I thought was pretty cool is they did an advertising roadblock across all the Disney properties on television. So ABC, ESPN, and National Geographic. And the first commercial break of 8 p.m. hour on all those networks, they ran basically a kind of a cinematic type commercial promoting the new Bronco, which has been done before in terms of the roadblocks, but across all the Disney properties, or those Disney properties, I thought was pretty cool. A lot of coordination probably went into the trafficking of those vignettes through those TV stations, and it was kind of cool how they used, because they're all different creative too. Like on ABC, they used a country guy, Kip Moore. I don't know if you're a country music fan, but I like country. Huh?
I'm not. Is this a deal breaker? He's going to kick me off the show.
Yeah, hold on.
The ejector button over there. He's going to launch me out of my chair.
So they had Kip Moore do that. ESPN used a professional climber, Brooke Rabuto, for theirs, and then they used the same director who did Free Solo to do the National Geographic one. So they all had sort of a different look, different appeal to the people who may be watching that channel. And I thought that was a really cool coordination, a really good way to launch an iconic vehicle that's coming back. One thing I did notice from, looking around and reading articles and poking around is there's like a ton of different versions, trim levels, different kinds of grills it looked like in the pictures I was looking at. You've got a Ford dealership in your group, so you have a unique perspective on what customer response or in-store, management response was to this vehicle. What are your thoughts on what it looks like, and what is the chatter been like so far?
Yeah, so I think your statement that you have on here, new Ford Bronco is fire. I think it's just that. I will say, let's kind of look at this, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So in that space, right, let's talk about those types of vehicles. You really only had the Jeep Wrangler and you had the Toyota FJ Cruiser. So I don't even know, I'm sorry, Toyota, if a lot of people consider the FJ Cruiser as that type of vehicle. But in theory, it would be toe-to-toe, or if people were looking in the market, Jeep Wrangler, FJ Cruiser, enter the new contender, the Ford Bronco. I think Ford did a really nice job with the Bronco. They definitely took some stylistic pieces and moments from the original Bronco, and they put them into the new Bronco. There are 3 different trim levels. You have the 4-door, the 2-door, and then the sport version. I think for Ford, this is going to be, not that the brand's gone anywhere, but Ford's been having some tough times, and that's all, public. You can find all that information. I think this is going to be awesome to really prove a rivalry, or show the rivalry between Jeep and Ford. And in order to answer your question just about what the engagement was like, I mean, let's look at this launch. I think the Ford sites, the reservation links actually crashed. So I do know, some inside information, so I really can't get, too much into that. And that's from Ford, right? So to the actual dealerships. But, I think there was something like 7,000, and I just want to confirm that information. So don't hold me to it. But I think there were 7,000 some odd reservations for the vehicle. And so much traffic that those reservation links crashed. Now, everything should be fine, but I do believe that the reservations for the first edition, so Ford Bronco First Edition, are completely sold out. So they have no more of those, but you can go and you can get the sport and other trim levels still, should you choose. I actually pulled something up here that shows engagement. This is from the Facebook group that you and I are part of, the Facebook Auto Marketing Collective. So shout out the Facebook Auto Marketing Collective, headed up by Bob Lanham, who's the head of automotive retail at Facebook, and his cohorts. So someone had posted in the group 3 pictures from the Ford Motor Company, and these are screenshots of the social media posts. And on all 3 of these, one of them has 21,000, engagements or reactions. No negative engagements on here. Thumbs up, hearts, and wows. With 8,000 comments, 21,000 shares, and 1.8 million views.
Wow.
The next one down the line has 5.5 thousand reactions, 777 comments with 716 shares, And the last one is 27,000 reactions, 8.9 thousand comments, and 33,000 shares. So overall, I think it did really well. We have, I think, 35 reservations that we received, and we're in a rural market.
That's good. That's a good number.
That's for a vehicle that doesn't come out until 2021, which is going to be rolling out soon. Cars manufacturers a little funny how they roll things out in the 2020 year. You'll get 2021s. But yeah, I think that did very well for us. So
let's take a call on this. Who's this?
Hi, this is Dave Stoley, Matt.
Oh, hello, David. How are you, buddy?
I am excellent. I feel like I had to chime in here with the Bronco Wrangler debate.
Yeah. But Dave, I know Dave. Everybody, we work in the industry. We used to work together, and we're old buddies. And I know you're a Wrangler owner, so give us your thoughts.
All right. So here's one of the things that I wanted to look at was the percentage of increase in MSRP from 1995 to 2021. Because if you look at a Wrangler Sahara in 1995, MSRP was $15,983. Wow. Okay, that same MSRP right now, equipped similarly, is over $50,000. So you're talking about a 300% increase. If you look at a Bronco Eddie Bauer edition, 1995, $24,000 fully equipped. That's a 200% increase, basically, of what you're getting into now if you're looking at the original edition. So I mean, I don't know how many other people looked at the data from that standpoint, but from my standpoint, Ford did a great job with the rollout on this, trying to manage cost versus marketing versus development and then actual rollout.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I agree with you. I think that's a good point. I think, you'll know better. Well, you'll both know better. Is the brand loyalty or the enthusiast level there for Bronco that there is for Wrangler, right? Wrangler is, Bronco is too, but I'm just talking about Wrangler, iconic brand. They got the wave thing. I know when I was in high school, all the girls in class, they all had a Wrangler, whether they bought it or their parents bought it or whatever. They're all over the place. People restore them. Old school Wranglers are hot. New Wranglers. Jeep is such a thing. And I know it more because we used to be Jeep people. My wife and I have had Jeeps before. That being said, the dude who lives across the street from me restores old Broncos. So I'm getting a taste of like, okay, well that is a thing too. Is the Bronco loyalty as high as the Wrangler loyalty? And are people, is the price going to be, is the price a roadblock for that? Colin?
So, I mean, for me, I think you do have a following that, has laid dormant, let's say, for a couple years. I mean, this vehicle did have a cult following. I know O.J. Simpson was a big fan. So, with that, I will say, listen, Jeep Wrangler's been around for a very long time. Ford Bronco, was around. It went away. That buzz that's now surrounded it as it's coming back. I think you will have people that will absolutely go as crazy for the Ford Bronco or have gone as crazy for the Ford Bronco as they do the Jeep Wrangler. But really only time will tell. I mean, we will know based upon the total number of reservations, the total number that actually make it to dealers' lots and how many are sold, whether or not it's going to hold the candle to what the Jeep brand's been doing and Jeep Wrangler. Price, though, Dave, that's a very awesome point. I'm really not a numbers guy unless it's, Google Analytics and all that geeky stuff. But to hear the MSRP comparison and how that's changed over the years, do I believe that pricing, to answer your second question as well, Matt, will play a factor into it? I think it's one of those things that if people want it, they're going to go out and get it. And now whether or not that buzz around the Bronco, let's say, dies off, I don't know yet. Now, Jeep Wrangler will have that consistent following, those people that will always buy a Jeep. They're not cheap vehicles, and so people are still buying them. With that stated, I think a lot of it's going to come down to, sure, a mix of price, but customer experience, what happens, and then obviously the brand image. So Dave, would you agree if you're still on the line with us?
Yeah, I would agree, and I'll leave you guys kind of with a statement of thought. I happen to be a Jeep Wrangler owner. I happen to also be someone who's placed an order for a Bronco. I happen to also be in the business working for another manufacturer. So I don't know where I fall in as far as the demographics of the guy that owns that car, but I can tell you this. I think a lot of manufacturers that build, whether it's an FJ Cruiser, whether it's a Jeep Wrangler, whether it's a Nissan Pathfinder, whatever the vehicle may be, when it goes through the progression and grows into a more family-friendly technological vehicle, a la the new Chevy Blazer versus what a K5 Blazer used to be, you're going to either lose some people or you're going to gain some traditionalists who followed that vehicle, throughout their life. So it will be interesting to me from what I've seen on the new Bronco. They stuck to the roots. It is still a traditional vehicle, but can also balance out as a family vehicle. Whereas the new Wrangler has gone, it's still a Wrangler, it's still rugged, but is also a lot more. The design features on the interior are a lot less rugged and a lot more Jeep Grand Cherokee. So it'll be interesting to see over the next 3 years of the cycle of both those vehicles if it does pull people from the Wrangler market that were maybe out there from an FJ Cruiser or that were looking for a new vehicle and they needed the four-door to put their kids in, but they didn't want all of the creature comforts and they didn't want to feel like they were in like a Pacifica.
Can we all agree that the FJ looks like a moon rover vehicle?
Listen, I don't want to. Go ahead, Dave.
What?
I'm going to leave the moon rover vehicle alone, Matthew, but I would agree it kind of stands as a separate entity from a Wrangler or a Bronco.
Yeah. Thanks for the call.
Agree with that. I think that's a very safe statement. Dave, I don't want to throw dirt on any brands. I can't do that. I love all brands.
I see. I'm going to be the controversial one in this podcast. I get it.
Bad cop, good cop.
Thank you, Dave, for calling in and giving his opinion. We appreciate it. Colin, let's take a commercial break.
Sounds good.
Hold on. Let me just take a sip of my Stoke. Hashtag STOK. They're not the commercial, though. They're not the sponsorship. Although we'll be going for a lifetime Stoke sponsorship at some point. All right. So Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson is brought to you by Silverback Advertising. Silverback Advertising does OTT a little different, right? OTT, connected TV. Silverback solution called Data Fusion Marketing is a little bit different because it's more than just vanity metrics. Sure, impressions, reach, frequency, those are all pretty cool. But actual attribution is what us car dealers are looking for, right? You can get actual attribution on top of those vanity metrics. You get calls, form fills, what else? Credit apps, phone calls, and footfall traffic. They saw your ad on their smart TV. They heard you on Spotify. They got a display ad on the weather app, and then they walked into your showroom. So pretty cool. For more information on Data Fusion Marketing, a true omni-channel marketing solution, go to silverbackadvertising.com. That is silverbackadvertising.com. How do we think it's going so far? Is everybody digging it? Let's bring Colin back in here. Hello, sir.
I'm digging it. Yeah, honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head, by the way, with your little Silverback ad there that, dealers are looking for attribution and they're looking for those key metrics, which you outlined. So for anyone listening, if you're interested in actually knowing what your omni-channel marketing buys get you, then check out Silverback Advertising. I think that's great. So
look at Colin coming in on the commercial read. Good job, buddy. You're like an old pro.
Listen, I've done enough of these with you now. I think I can do it. I'm going
to send you a bottle of Stoke. I need to see you chugging some Stoke during this. Stoke cold brew is fantastic. Get it at your local grocery store, wherever groceries are sold. This is my second one of the day, and I'm going to be all stoked up, man.
All stoked up. Hashtag all stoked up. Everything's STOK when you're drinking Stoke. I like that one. Stoke, if you're listening, that's good stuff. You guys should take that for your marketing. But of course, give Matt credit and royalties and all that jazz.
Yes, please.
So actually, here's something very interesting. I love that Dave had called in. So thanks, Dave, if you're still listening. And with that, you had mentioned something that I thought would be a great segue into our next segment if you want to talk about this. If not, you're the leader of this show. You can say, Colin, no, I don't want to talk about it. But you had mentioned brand loyalty. And you had mentioned brand loyalty between the Jeep Wrangler customer and perhaps the Ford Bronco customer as the Ford Bronco is rolled out and people start getting it in 2021. So switching gears, though, with brand loyalty, Subaru has actually I believe it's the highest level of brand loyalty amongst its customers, and I think the number is 60.5% in terms of people that have purchased the Subaru will return to buy or lease another Subaru. 60.5% of its customers.
Wow, that's high. I can't. Do you think any other OEM comes close to that?
Well, so in the article I have here, this is from CNET, so shout out to CNET. Subaru barely, this is their wording here, barely squeezes into the top spot. So Toyota has 60.3%.
Really?
Yeah. Honda has 58.7%. And here we go. This is a very interesting one. Ram, right? So Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, although not the Jeep product, Ram, which is one of the Fiat Chrysler Automobiles brands, are now the newly minted Stellantis with their merger. Ram has 57.3%. And Ford, which rounds out the top five, has a 54.3% brand loyalty. And those are JD Power numbers. Those are not numbers that I make up. You guys can go fact check that. There's no fake news here.
Anybody missing from that list that you're surprised about?
Anyone missing from this list? Let's see. So you want me to just run down the real list real quick?
Yeah, do you have it?
I do. I have the list here. This is very interesting. So we had named the top five. So after that, you have Kia, Chevrolet, Hyundai, Nissan, Volkswagen, Jeep. That's interesting. Jeep's only at, I say, 41%. I don't know what really goes into building brand loyalty, but I thought that would be higher, definitely. And I'm not biased because we have, 3 Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram stores. Mazda, GMC, Buick, Mitsubishi, Mini, Dodge, Chrysler, Fiat, and what's over here? These are the high-end vehicles. So that's the mass market branding, okay? Right. Luxury branding. Lexus.
List.
Yeah, Lexus leads luxury, followed by Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Porsche, Audi, Land Rover, Acura, Volvo, Lincoln, Cadillac, Maserati, Infiniti, and Jaguar.
If I had to make the list on my own, and we'll go non-luxury, I would have gone, without even thinking about it, Subaru, Jeep, Ford, Chevy. Because Subaru people are crazy, especially here, not crazy, but, crazy. Here in the Northeast. We're both in the Northeast. Jeep people are Jeep people. I'm Jeep people. I can't wait to get back to a Jeep. Ford F-150 people are Ford F-150 people. That is the truck they drive, truck after truck after truck. And then I would have thought Chevy, from a truck perspective, would have been after that. So I'm pretty surprised that Toyota is so far up on the list.
That's very interesting, because I would probably have to agree with you in terms of your list, just because you do look at sales, and in those segments we know that SUV and CUV as well as pickup trucks are what's selling in the market now. And yeah, those number one spots are usually Ram, Ford, Chevy, or I believe maybe it's Ram, Chevy, Ford. They flip flop every so often, but I would think that those brands, and Jeep as well, as you had mentioned, would be higher up there. So, I mean, it's very interesting. Let's talk about it though. Why do you think that those brands have such a high level of brand loyalty? I mean, is it as simple as what you said? I have in my notes here in a little quote, a Subaru owner is a Subaru owner.
Yeah. Subaru owners name their cars. I feel like those are the people who they get Subaru after Subaru. I mean, here in the Northeast, it has a lot to do with the all-wheel drive aspect of it. I feel like people who want all-wheel drive, who don't want a SUV, even though a lot of other manufacturers are rolling out all-wheel drive sedans now, Subaru comes to mind first, because they were the ones who had our whole lineup as all-wheel drive early on from the beginning. And so I think there's that recognition of, I want all-wheel drive. I don't want an SUV. I got to get a Subaru. And then once they get it, they love it. They have either a great experience with the car or a great experience with the dealer they buy it from, and then that's it. They're in the Subaru family. I'm wondering if it's like that. If we broke this down by region of the country, would it be the same everywhere? I mean, we're in the Northeast bubble, and so everyone on my block has an SUV where I live, right? We live at high elevation in the northwest corner of Connecticut. When it snows in town, we get 2 extra inches where I live, right? So everyone has an SUV. But in the Northeast, everyone's got an all-wheel drive vehicle. A lot of people either have one or aspire to have one. But in the Southeast or in, the Midwest, it doesn't matter as much. Do people go out and buy a sedan because it's all-wheel drive? I wonder if the loyalty carries across the country as it does here.
You know what? That's a really great question, and I wonder if there's some follow-up research that I can do to get you an answer.
Well, you can do that, because I'm not doing the follow-up research.
Well, that's what happens when you host the show and it actually has your name on it. You just get to sit there and look pretty, and then they have to do all the research. See,
I'm having a good hair day today.
Yeah, it looks good. With that, though, I think that's a very interesting thing to look into. It's very interesting from a dealer's perspective, and I get it, you sit on the agency side of things, but let's talk about then advertising and, what Subaru has done. I think I have something pulled up here, their new campaigns. I think something that Subaru's done very well is they've actually woven or interwoven their vehicle into an individual's lifestyle. So, for example, they have 3 campaigns up here that I pulled up. It's Where the Heart Is, the Moment of Silence campaign, and then an Easy Commute campaign. So let's focus on the Easy Commute campaign. So it's about a Subaru Outback and the owner's daily commute. So they actually take an individual, lady's name is Sherry, and it follows her journey in her Outback across mountains and years of time for more than 500,000 miles, tracing her journey to the students that depend on her most. So I guess she's a teacher, which I think is that's great. I mean, the campaign idea about her daily commute is phenomenal. The other ones, as I mentioned, Where the Heart Is, and then the Moment of Silence. The Moment of Silence is about their safety, and it's this powerful commercial reimagines the memory of a car accident from the point of view of a father's eyes. And then it talks about the family was protected by the dependable safety of a Subaru. And then the last one, Where the Heart Is, adventure starts in our national parks. So Subaru, they're supporting the National Parks Foundation. It's an inspiring commercial. A young family takes a road trip through Arches National Park in the all-new 2020 Subaru Outback. So along the way, their Outback helps them introduce their son to the adventure that our national parks hold, and reminds us all why we must preserve the parks for generations to come. So do you think there's a power in interwoven or weaving it in with someone's lifestyle?
I think so. I mean, when you think of when I think of a Subaru, I think of an active person. So if I'm an active, because I think their advertising, their branding, their commercials sort of paint that picture. So if I'm somebody who goes hiking or likes to hoist a canoe up on the top of my car and drop it in the Housatonic River, or I'm the kind of person who likes to take my dog places with me. When I think of Subaru, I think of those things. Mm-hmm. I think if you're somebody who does those things, you might think of Subaru, because Subaru, I think, has done a fantastic job as painting themselves as, if this is what your life is like, we're the car that fits that. It's like back in the day when Saturn had the car with the third door, and they always, how Saturn had like the 3-door car.
Is it the front door? Yeah.
And there was that side door, and they had the commercial of the kid like loading his trumpet into the car, and they were trying to paint themselves as that, like, listen, if you have a car that you need to put a bunch of stuff in, our little handy third door is the way to do it. And now I had one of those cars, and the third door was not that handy. But I think they're trying to position themselves so I think there's value to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. And then I guess for dealers, because we always like to make these shows, you get some actionable insight and some value from them. And if there are any dealers listening out there, we would love for you to chime in at this moment in time. But I will tell you from our perspective, it's very interesting. So we do have, as I mentioned before, as you'd mentioned, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram locations, a Ford location, and they're up in a market in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, Sussex, where it's very rural. But there are a lot of Subaru owners in that market. Mm-hmm. And for us, we're always obviously looking to conquest Subaru owners to either come into, a Ford vehicle, right? You have the Escape, you have the Explorer, you have an Edge, which are all SUV vehicles, or to our FCA product. So you have Jeep, you have a Jeep, Jeep Cherokee, Jeep Grand Cherokee, perhaps a Jeep Renegade. They're all those similar types of vehicles, right? It's this outdoorsy, all-wheel drive, kind of vehicle. Is it worth dealers going to battle, I will say, with Subaru, a Subaru dealer? Do you think that, from your advertising perspective, do you think that would be a waste of ad dollars to try to conquest those owners?
I do. When I'm in our conquest advertising at my group, we stayed away from that, right? The OEM would tell us, here's who's essentially stealing your lunch in your market, right? It's Subaru and Subaru and Honda in the market that I was in. And the Toyota dealer, wasn't a super active dealer. And while there's a lot of competition between Nissan and Toyota, we didn't really see it in our market. But we didn't conquest the Subaru people. And the reason we didn't do it at our Nissan location was at the time we didn't have any all-wheel drive vehicles. Like, what's your rebuttal gonna be to their advertising? Okay. And now the Altima is all-wheel drive, and I believe they're coming out with an all-wheel drive Sentra, or maybe it's a Maxima. They have another all-wheel drive they're going to roll out. All right, so maybe now you can direct a message at the person who's driving the Subaru equivalent to the Altima sized vehicle, whatever that is. But we didn't because from a drivetrain standpoint, we didn't have anything to compete with them with. The interior and the technology at the time of the Nissans was greater than the Subarus. I believe the Subarus have kind of caught up now in that, and we found it easier to pick off deals from Honda, Toyota, Hyundai, and Kia dealers in our market than we did from Subaru. And, as we all know, you're the marketing director of the group. I'm in an agency. You have to work twice as hard, creative and budget-wise, to pull somebody out of another manufacturer to your manufacturer. And I don't think, given our situation, was worth the ad dollars at the time.
That's very interesting. And like I said, to anyone listening out there, dealers, advertisers, if you have success stories of conquesting a brand that has a high level of brand loyalty, yet isn't often shopped, let's say cross-shopped, because if we go back to those examples of Toyota, being number 2, although the people are brand loyal to that, I think there's a higher propensity of Toyotas being cross-shopped with Honda and Nissan versus a Subaru being cross-shopped with a Jeep or a similar type of vehicle. Now, I don't know the facts on that one, so this could all be, this is assumptions and, hearsay. But the fact of the matter is, I would believe that in my heart of hearts that there's not that cross-shopping or as much cross-shopping going on for those brands. Now, here's something while we keep the conversation going about brand loyalty. So this J.D. Power survey that released the same data that we just went over is saying that the research shows it's becoming increasingly difficult for automakers to court new buyers into a brand. So they're saying that with the programs now, especially with COVID-19 raging in different markets, that obviously OEMs have gotten super aggressive with their programs. We had deferred payments for some time. Some manufacturers still have deferred payments. 0% APR for, as much as 84 months at one point in time. 7 years. That's absolutely crazy. Ford just released their Ford Promise program. So if you buy or lease a vehicle and should you come on hard times, you lose your job due to COVID, you can return the vehicle for up to 1 year. So I think these are things that no one has really ever thought would happen. And that's going to go away at some point in time. So what do you think? What implications does this have for dealers when they learn from J.D. Power, which is a trusted source, that it's going to become increasingly difficult for automakers, to court new buyers into their brands?
Does that send dealers in? Does that sound dealers into cannibalizing so now you're conquesting your own brand people? If you're at a Honda dealership and you've got 3 other Honda dealerships within 20 miles of you or 30 miles of you, are you battling extra hard now against each other in order to get some bring new customers into your dealership because it's becoming increasingly difficult to conquest, other manufacturers. I don't know. I mean, you've seen the OEMs a lot recently, and I probably saw this for me for the first time, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even less. Conquest cash for people outside, coming in outside of your manufacturer. So if you're driving a Ford, I'm making this example up, but if you're driving a Chevy pickup truck and Ford comes out with a $1,500 conquest cash for somebody who you can take out of a Chevy, put them into a Ford, does it make sense for the Ford dealer to conquest the Chevy dealer? I don't know. It's hard to say. I think a lot of it could come from your situation, your budget, your advertising budget, what's mission critical. You got to make sure you're taking care of the stuff you need to take care of before there's some things you want to do before you start thinking about all the other things you wish you could do. I think it probably depends on the dealership or the manufacturer and, the part of the country that you're in. I don't know. It's a terrible answer, but.
No, listen, I think this is worth the conversation. So what I think this, implicates for dealers or implies for dealers. Did I just make up a word, implicates?
Yeah, that's
not a word. Sorry about that, everyone. You can use it, though. It sounds good. What this implies for dealers is I think that they're going to have to focus more on. So here, this is very interesting. So let's talk about it. Right now, dealers on a tier 3 level, so at the dealership level, right, where I physically sit, there's other dealers in my position, obviously all trying to sell cars, marketing on the tier 3 level. They are going after in-market, low-funnel shoppers for their brands, okay? Now, if those people were waiting for all of these people to essentially come to us, and yes, we do some advertising to bring people further and further down the funnel. What I think this implies, now that it's going to be harder to court individuals to other brands, is that we actually need to hit the customer further up the funnel where they're still considering multiple brands, right? And that is how, on our level, we are going to have to bring those people lower and lower and lower down the funnel until they convert at our dealership or on one of our brands. Now, I know tier 1, that's their job, right? So on a national level, they're supposed to build the buzz around the brand. But that's saying that someone in theory is already considering, an SUV, whether it's a Jeep or something like that. Maybe they don't know, what vehicle or type of SUV they want. But then, okay, they get down to a tier 2 level with its regionalized incentives, and then a tier 3 level with the dealership actually advertising. Would you think, or would you agree that, dealers might have to broaden their advertising and maybe go after individuals that are higher up the funnel, which is almost, it's contradictory to what we want to do, which is just spend money as efficiently as possible.
Yeah. I think in the perfect world, dealers could do that. I always call it transactional and relational, advertising. And, most dealers spend a lot of their marketing dollars at the transactional level, obviously lower funnel. People have already decided what brand they're going to buy. Maybe even they have it down to the model. They're trying to decide where they're going to buy because it takes more dollars to advertise at that higher funnel level because you're not targeting in on the person. Like you said, maybe that person doesn't know they're buying a Jeep yet. They're still in the consideration phase. So now instead of targeting your dollars, most efficiently, you're kind of spreading that money out, and that's hard for some dealers to do. And at my group, we looked at it. We were part of the regional marketing committee, so we get to look at a lot of things from the tier 2 level. Is we talked a lot about to tier 2 about we want your advertising to be transactional. The OEM tier 1 needs to worry about that stuff. They need to worry about getting the person sold on the brand, kicking them down the funnel one notch, and then we'll take it from there. But if you're in a market where maybe tier 1 or tier 2 doesn't spend a lot of advertising dollars, then maybe it is up to you and you need to do that. But if you're in a market of that size, you probably don't have an enormous advertising budget anyway, and then you got to focus on the mission critical stuff. These are discussions and arguments and conundrums that dealers have probably been having for long before you and I were in the automotive industry. I don't know. A lot of it. Listen, if you had $100,000 a month to spend per store, you could accomplish everything you wanted to accomplish. And that number varies from, wherever a store is located. But, nobody has unlimited funds. So it becomes kind of trying to narrow down what you have to do. I don't know. In a perfect world, I would have loved the opportunity to be at a group where we could have done all that, because I think you could make a real effect on the market and your market share and the brand loyalty, dealership loyalty in your market. I think,
yeah, I mean, just to continue the conversation, and for anyone listening out there, I always like to preface the statements with this. This is not saying go out and spend your money all willy-nilly. That's not what we're trying to do at all. Like Matt said, you want to take care of the mission critical items, right? So you still want to go after those low funnel in-market shoppers. You can't abandon that. But it makes you think when you have sources like JD Power talking about how automakers are going to be finding it hard to court buyers from other brands. It is almost like one of those things where you say to yourself, well, does this mean my dealership needs to step up to try to convert those buyers? Because what that means to me down the line, and this could be years and years down the line, but all right, if let's say hypothetically Chrysler says, oh, we can't get these people, it's too hard to court them. Well, by the time they get down from that tier 1 level to the tier 2 level to what's at the tier 3 level for dealers, that means it's going to be less people, right? You would just think that as the funnel gets further and further down, it's less and less people. Now, it would be great if we represent, or whoever you work for as a dealer or run a store as a dealer represents a brand that's thriving, that's taking all of these customers. And I think that that's the goal for every manufacturer. But it's very interesting. And I think dealers need to be on their toes, and they need to really think about, okay, how am I going to spend my ad dollars, one, efficiently, but what happens if I think that, in my market, there's not as much opportunity for these buyers, but I can conquest other buyers to come and buy my brand.
I think you make a point about it coming from the top too. If the OEM provides the incentives or the hook for the conquesting, and that trickles down to tier 2 and tier 3, and maybe they help the tier 3 level, whether it's a program or some kind of advertising rebate or some dollars to help with that. Then maybe the tier 3, maybe us dealers are in a position to do that. But have the OEM say, hey, this is a thing, get it done. In a lot of situations, a dealer will say, well, that's not. That's your thing, but that's not my thing. I'm worried about, retaining my customers and, taking care of the customers who are deferring to another dealership in the same OEM in my market. I can't worry about that. You got to worry about that.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, if we could move on then from that, and I guess it will always be an ongoing conversation, but here's something that let's just on the same realm of brand loyalty, and you can keep this up too. But so Jaguar, I mean, what do you think this implies for Jaguar? And then we'll get into those awesome looking things at the top right there for all of those that are watching. But so Jaguar as the lowest ranked brand loyal vehicle in the luxury segment, what do you think that means for Jaguar? I mean, I have here, do you wake up and try to get those people coming back to your brand, or are you just content with saying, all right, they're not going to come back to us?
I'm surprised. I wonder where the people are deferring to. Maserati?
That would be really interesting to find out as well. So I have two things I want to get for you, which is the Subaru data, if that's the same throughout each region of the United States in terms of the loyalty. And then the last thing would be looking at where Jaguar customers would go to.
Do you want me to assign you an Asana task for that, or send you an email with your homework, or are you going to remember?
You can Slack me.
It'd be interesting too to see what if the other manufacturers know. Okay, we're getting all these people from Jaguar, or we're winning all these customers. We're not even trying, but we're winning all these customers. So if you can get on that, I'd appreciate it.
You got it. I'll see what I can do.
Show this picture again to everybody who's watching live. This is fantastic. If you haven't seen this story, It's a hard seltzer brand called Crook and Marker. And they posted on social media, which I'm showing here on our screen, what was kind of a joke, an idea that came up in a brainstorming session, kind of a joke, which is a mask that you can drink through. So for those listening on the podcast version, it's a mask that has a hole in it that you can stick a straw through and drink a beverage. So I don't know if anybody's been going out to restaurants or eating. I've been going out and eating outside at restaurants that have outdoor seating. You wear your mask, you sit down, you order, and then the food comes or your appetizers come and you take your mask off and you eat. But what happens before the meal? They bring you your drink, usually a cocktail. If it's lunchtime, that's okay. You can still have a cocktail, no problem. Unless my boss is listening, in which case I wait till 5:30. So if you could drink through your mask, that'd be a great idea, right? So this company, Crook and Marker, had this kind of joke idea for a mask that has a hole in it, and they posted it on their social media accounts, and people went bananas for it. People loved it. And like most good ideas, sometimes it comes from an idea that you kind of think is a throwaway idea. So they thought, well, maybe there's something to it. They got all kinds of comments and posts and reshares on their Instagram page. And the CMO of the company, Daniel Goodfellow, what a great last name.
It is a good last name.
we should totally do this, right? So they went into the development phase where they tried to come up with, well, how are we going to make the hole close, right? You can't have it open. That defeats the purpose of wearing the mask here in the COVID world. So they tried out all kinds of things. A zipper. That doesn't seem like a very good idea. Getting your lip stuck in a zipper sounds like it would hurt. Ties. They tried it all out, and they settled on the button flap that opens up. Stick the straw in there, and then you close the button flap, and you're good to go. So they expedited it. They put it together. They manufactured it, and they got it out. And apparently, it's been doing pretty well. It's $14.99 a mask, and they sold out their initial batch that they made in 24 hours. And they say their website traffic during the July 4th weekend was up 200% year over year. And if you're looking at it right now on our Friday Mornings Live video, you can get a look at it. The one on the, I think it might be the left if you're watching, but it's on my right. Looks pretty good. It's kind of black and gray, kind of like looks like a maze. I kind of like that. That being said, I do not drink hard seltzer or anything out of a can with a straw. So I don't know. But like if you're drinking, if you're at a restaurant and you're drinking a cocktail through a straw, which I don't really do, that's a way to do it. So what do you think about it? And would you get one, Colin?
Yeah, so listen, I thought this is really, really creative from Crook and Marker. And I think, I will say this. It's okay if you drink through a straw. I know, Matt, you're a very macho, manly man.
I'm not.
You can't drink through a straw, but I drink drinks through a straw, and I still consider myself pretty macho, pretty manly, although I do have my moments. But I will tell you, I think the demographic that Crook and Marker was going after, right? So I'm going to bring up my girlfriend right now. My girlfriend always drinks things with a straw. She has oh my goodness, one of those, it's a Yeti, like a Yeti water canister.
Yeah.
You unscrew the top of her Yeti canister, and she has a straw in there. And she drinks her water from her Yeti canister with the straw. Any sort of coffee, I believe even hot coffee. There's girls that I know that drink it with a straw.
That's
so I think there's something about the straw. People like the straw. It's almost like very, very Jerry Seinfeld. What's with the straw?
I don't want you to think I'm not anti-straw. I'm just, if I'm drinking an adult beverage, I like the feeling of a sturdy cup with a couple of cubes of ice in it. I'm not anti-straw. Don't make it sound like I don't like straw. I'll drink Starbucks out of a straw. It comes with a straw. You're driving, you need a straw. If I'm driving, I have a straw.
Okay. All right. Well, now that that's settled, I think what we look at now is the whole movement that I will call the mask movement. So this thing is called the Taste Mask. Once again, by Crook and Marker. I think it's a really great idea. Matt, you had mentioned their engagement on social media. The first post that they had made about the mask was kind of not a revolving post, but it showed different photos of the different masks. Had 31,000 views and 140 comments. I mean, it's colorful, it's fun, it catches attention. I know I'm a guy, I take my fashion very seriously. I would love a mask that has these awesome patterns that I can mix and match with different outfits, things like that. And the best part is that all the proceeds, so when you purchase this $14.99 mask, all the proceeds get donated to the USBG Bartender Assistance Program. So we know right now, with restaurants being closed or limited to outdoor dining, some just doing curbside takeout or delivery, that bartenders and bars, in that matter, have really not fully opened back up. So they've fallen on hard times. Probably one of the industries that's been hit the hardest throughout this whole COVID-19 debacle, including the wedding industry. I think that they've been pretty beat up at this point in time. But with this, that's an awesome way to, one, build PR, a positive brand image around this company, Crooked Marker, which is a fairly new company, I believe. It's based out of New Jersey, which is great. So it's in my neck of the woods. But they did this and it took off. And I think you also see other brands. For example, I'm a big Lacoste guy. I was talking to you as an aside the other day, and Lacoste had come out with masks. 3 different matte colors, red, white, and blue. It was for 4th of July, and one of them it was a blue mask with a red, white, and blue, crocodile on there. And with that, they sold out. I think it was in a matter of minutes, honestly, of these limited masks that they had made. Nike, Adidas, they're all jumping on the mask train. So this makes you think, though, if we look at it from an automotive perspective, I mean, is it beneficial for dealerships to come up with something like that where they give a mask with every purchase, or someone brands their own mask at the dealership? What do you think that could mean for dealers?
I was talking to a dude who owns an agency in Canada land, which is, if you look at a map, is up on a map. And he ordered thousands of masks from a distributor that he found. And he was going to all his dealership clients and dropping off hundreds of masks for them to give out to customers. So a customer would show up, and even if they had a mask, they would say, "Hey, listen, we know that you throw these masks away after wearing them a couple of times, or you need to wash your cloth masks. Here's a couple other masks for you." And he was telling me that one of the dealers that he works with was hanging masks. You know how like sometimes manufacturer will send you like little hang tags you can put on the mirror of the vehicles. The dealer that he was delivering these masks to was hanging 2 masks on every mirror of every car in their inventory, which I thought was cool, because if you're driving around now, you see that now, right? Masks are like the new fuzzy dice. Yeah. People have masks hanging from their mirrors, which I don't think is all that safe, really, honestly. But I think it's a good idea. Why not? I mean, there's a lot of stores in my area, retail stores, where they give you masks or pass out gloves or take your temperature at the door or whatever it is. I think it's a good idea. You can't be like, "Hey, you have to wear a mask to come in here. Oh, you don't have one? Get the heck out." Like if you provide a bunch at the door, I think that's great. If you give it away when someone comes into the showroom, I think that's great too. Are you doing your stores, Colin?
So we have masks. We do in New Jersey. It's mandatory for us to be open that we do require individuals to wear masks when they enter the dealership. And listen, it's a tumultuous time, and sometimes that does not work out in our favor. Obviously, if there are some underlying health issues or conditions, we understand, and we're not going to, say, "Hey, you can't come in." But we have had instances, I will tell you, it's been really crazy with individuals. We're getting a lot of backlash on social media, because we've made people wear masks. So it's interesting. I mean, you said there, what a time to be alive. That's what I keep saying, honestly, just in my daily life, what a time to be alive. But I think you had brought up a really good point, and I'm glad we're talking about it. If we're talking about, being unique in your market, if you're a dealer and you're listening, I mean, what better way to take advantage of this situation than to provide perhaps a branded mask to, a customer if they come in, or whether it's with every purchase or, just when they're interacting with you. I don't think people really think about this, and this is not my idea. I actually saw this on one of the bowels of the internet, right? Social media, whatever it was. But literally, if you think about this, guys, you have this mask that, if you look at the pictures that are up here, are covering basically all the way up to your eyeballs and then covering your mouth and around that. What a great spot to advertise something. I mean, you are looking at a person dead in the eye when you're talking to them, and now if they have some sort of branding over their face there, that's pretty powerful. So I think it's these creative things that keep us coming back for more, and why I love talking with Matt, because you see a company has done something that's, taken off, that's gone viral. I definitely think you have the potential from a dealership perspective to do something just like that. Get a little creative, build some positive image around the dealership by taking safety precautions, by providing these masks that are branded. Have fun with it. I think that's definitely something, obviously within the law, you can't steal some logos and whatnot. I think there's some legal issues with that, but get creative and see what you can do with it.
I believe NASCAR, who, as you know, is all about logos. They put a logo anywhere that's flat. They find a way to put a logo on it. A driver gets out of in a past life, I had a NASCAR talk show. So even though I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, I know inordinately.
Yes, that's it.
Amount of things about NASCAR, especially marketing and advertising and branding part of it. They can put a logo on anything, from the driver getting out of the car to putting his, used to be you got out of a car and it was like a crazy celebration. Now it's you get out and it's well orchestrated. Your PR person hands you the hat you're supposed to wear. They hand you the drink you're supposed to have. They hand you, they slide a thing in front of you that's a stand-in of the logo that sponsors you. I mean, it's like an orchestrated thing that's generating money. It's not about the spontaneity of I won the race. So I found a picture of Kyle Busch, who is a villain in the NASCAR world, and he's got M&Ms on who's his sponsor, on his mask. But you see all the major sports teams, right? I mean, I was trying to, in the beginning of this whole thing, find the mask that was most comfortable for me. You try and find one that you can deal with and wear all the time. And my first thought was, let me see if the Patriots and the Mets have masks. And of course they do. And they're for sale and they're expensive on their website. But from a car dealership standpoint, why not? I mean, we used to do, at one of my groups, we would get, this is not branding, but we would order special plate frames for the holiday, not holidays, for charities. We get pink plate frames for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. We would buy red plate frames for Heart Disease Month, maybe. So I think that's a good idea for dealers to do. Somebody might wear it, right? I mean, people wear it from their favorite brand for sure. I would wear a Mets one tomorrow.
And I think that's the thing. We don't realize how. First of all, you give out, let's look at some things that have been given out in history at dealerships. You give out keychains. You give out, coffee mugs, phone holders, maybe some sort of gear. And as long as it has the brand on it, people most likely will wear it. We know that there is a loyal following amongst a lot of the brands. Once again, like I said, you got to watch about some legality issues by taking logos and self-imposing or superimposing logos on something that's essentially not from the manufacturer. But you get use from a mask. Like you said, the mask is the new fuzzy dice hanging from, the middle of your rear view mirror. But I think it's also one of those things that's like when you forget your keys. You run out the house and you're saying, oh, expletive, I forgot my mask. So yeah. Whether this is the person's in-car mask, or they need to make a quick run to the store, so they throw on a mask or whatever it is, there's definitely an opportunity for dealers who can get creative to put some branding on a mask, I would believe, and that all ties it together. So,
Colin, I think we're out of time. We both have some dealerships to market, man. We got to get to some marketing.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun.
Cool. All right, Colin. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Bye. See you, everyone.
See ya. There you go. Colin's actually not going to be gone for very long because next podcast episode of Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson comes out on Tuesday. Colin and I talked to Josie Vaquero, who works at BMW in Newmarket, and she is killing it on TikTok. I'm on a quest to find out what is going on with TikTok, and can be utilized beneficially for dealers. She's got over 20,000 followers on the TikTok account for her BMW store. Josie Vaccaro, BMW of Newmarket. They are in Canada land. And on Tuesday, we'll have an episode that we recorded with her talking all about what they did, how they got their followers. It'll be super educational for dealers who are involved in social media heavily. So I encourage you to check that out. That'll be out on Tuesday on all the places that you can get your podcast: Google, Apple, Frackle, wherever people get podcasts, Spotify. So check them out. Listen, I appreciate it. Friday Mornings Live, presented by Silverback Advertising, mostly automotive marketing with Matt Wilson. Thanks to Colin for joining me. Thanks to everybody who listened in. We really appreciate it. And next podcast coming out on Tuesday, another live episode coming out next Friday at 10:30 a.m. Thanks for listening. Baseball starts today. Let's go Mets.
Mostly.